Welcome to Svea Kanal, Editorial. My name is Magnus Stenlund. It is rare that I have felt less satisfaction in being proven right in my predictions than I do today. Why? I woke to the tune of a financial market displaying all the signs of being controlled. The gold price surged initially, but was promptly suppressed. The dollar strengthened, of course. It's a safe haven. The 10-year Treasury yield remains at 4.40, and the stock markets looked as though they were yawning. What did I say? Waging war on Sunday nights provides fantastic opportunities to tidy up the neocon circus ring, making it appear entirely unaffected. Everything is business as usual. Meanwhile, everything around us is collapsing. This is precisely what is so unbearable. There are no early warnings left that haven't been successfully manipulated. Not only has there been an immense escalation of the risk of war in the world, but we are likely witnessing the start of nuclear weapons programs in at least 4 countries, which within a few years will raise the stakes even further. When Iran, Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Egypt join this hardly illustrious group, let it be known that this attack was the decisive factor for them. The utter contempt shown by the United States and Israel for the international rules they themselves established will also prompt even more countries to think along the same lines. Without a clear unipolar leadership, with no one caring about the rules of the game, and with 4 new nuclear-armed states in the Middle East, we can also assume that countries like Indonesia, Brazil, Argentina, South Africa, Nigeria, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam will realize that the international playing field has stratified, leaving those without nuclear weapons as potential prey for the whims of rogue states. And when these rogue states are as powerful as the United States and as aggressive as Israel, it's best to arm oneself to the teeth. Could it possibly be that this is the military-industrial complex intention? Unleashing Armageddon in Iran and demonstrating to the world that cynical arbitrariness now reigns. Well, at the very least, we are likely to see continued global rearmament, and the countries that continue to rely on the protection of others and international regulations will be few. Like Alex Craner, I have wanted to see a clever plan behind Donald Trump's actions. This is, of course, difficult to do now. The idea behind the attack on Iran's nuclear facilities is a foolish one, and it appears to have failed entirely, or almost entirely. Reports that all equipment and materials had been moved from the attacked sites, particularly Fordow, seems highly credible, not least because this is pure logic from Iran's perspective, given the open threats made in advance and the geographical location of these facilities conveniently within Israel's reach. Now, if not before, we must assume that Iran has chosen to place its most sensitive facilities in the eastern parts of the country. The colossal flaw in this foolish plan when it comes to achieving what was claimed to be the goal, namely eliminating Iran's nuclear weapons program, forces them, as usual, to obscure the failure with media smoke screens. The claim to have delayed the country's completion of these weapons by 3 years. So, we are first supposed to believe Israel's assertions that nuclear weapons were practically ready to be launched. Coincidentally, 3 years from now aligns with the timeline Tulsi Gabbard's intelligence report to Congress assured earlier this spring, stating how much time Iran needed at a minimum. Back to square one, then, where two lies about how imminent the threat was and how effectively it was neutralized led to a more likely truth. Thing is, with the agreement that was on the table, Iran could more likely have been persuaded to abandon this gamble. But Israel didn't want that, because then they wouldn't have had a good enough pretext to strike. Trump's next idiotic gamble lies in the misconception that with this single massive preemptive operation, he will convince Iran to abandon all further war efforts. First, we should not rule out that both the weapons lobby, neocons in the USA, and Israel consider it advantageous if the war continues to escalate. If so, we know they have always gotten their way. For example, if new intelligence reports officially confirm what independent experts are already saying, that the nuclear capacity has not been eliminated at all, this will give them the arguments they need. Another such argument, which they would much rather not acknowledge right now, is that Iran's continued missile attacks on Israel are turning Tel Aviv into a pile of rubble. In the long run, when or if this becomes impossible to hide from the public, it will be used as justification for more retaliation and escalation. No, neocons never back down, least of all when their plans have gone awry. They are only temporarily mistaken, and the mistakes always lies in having done too little, not too much. Since the use of nuclear weapons by Israel has already been discussed in leading American newspapers, without, as would be obvious, categorically dismissing this idea, we must unfortunately assume that this is the most likely worst-case scenario we currently face. Second, the same line of thinking may now have taken hold in Iran, where war hawks have gained ammunition, as it has become clear how utterly unreliable the US is as a negotiation partner. In hindsight, everyone can see that this would not have happened if nuclear weapons had already been in place. Trump assumes, like all so-called American diplomats, that the US can intimidate and threaten other countries into submission. But this is a tactic that only works with small countries whose governments can also be replaced. Countries like Iran, with 92 million inhabitants, a land area 80 times larger than Israel's, and with between 22,000 and 40,000 missiles in stock, are not such a country. The failure to change the regime, which was almost certainly Israel's ambition. Otherwise, what was the point of killing senior military and political figures, which the US now claims it wasn't aiming for? But as it seems, Trump or Netanyahu already changed the president's mind about. Is an adaptation to what has proven impossible to achieve, just as impossible as toppling Putin. Now they believe they can bring Iran to a negotiation table, which their actions have shown to be not only utterly pointless to sit at, but outright dangerous for individuals Israel deems legitimate targets for assassination. Trump has proven his complete unreliability, but once with this gesture, combined with even harsher ultimatums to get his way regardless. I can say there is one single possibility for that. The straw we can cling into, we who desperately want to hold on to our hopes that Trump's leadership would be better for the world than Biden's, in any respect other than clarifying that female boxers shouldn't have to compete against males and similar nonsense. This possibility is so paper-thin unlikely that I almost feel embarrassed to mention it, but it hinges on the idea that this is actually a trap for the neocons and Israel. We would then have to suppose that Trump's people, with utmost discretion, of course, provided Iran with information about what was going to happen, which would explain, as it will become clear, why Iran moved its nuclear weapons program in time. If this is the case, we would see it in two ways. One, Iran chooses to intensify its bombardment of Israel without striking American bases. And two, Trump, when Israel finally admits it is being bombed to pieces, chooses to refrain from further similar attack missions, stating that he and the Americans has now done their part. I don't really believe this at all. Just as the MAGA movement in the US is now squirming uncomfortably, I think we must let go of all hope that Trump is a white knight. At best, he is a clumsy and misguided bear in the deep state's circus ring. Thank you.